Imagine a world where there is only one champion of magic, no shared power, no Marvel family, no safety net, one boy, carrying the full weight of the gods alone. And when the greatest threat the universe has ever seen, resues something, even the Council of Wizards, feared Billy Batson, discovers a horrifying truth. The power meant to save the world may be the very thing that destroys it. Because without anyone to share the burden, even a hero chosen by the gods can break. The storm began long before Billy Batson understood what it meant to be chosen. Long before he learned that the word Shazam wasn't just a name, but a curse and a promise woven into the fabric of magic itself. It began on his 12th birthday, cold, lonely, quiet, when the subway lights flickered, reality thinned, and the rock of eternity swallowed him whole. The wizard, old as the first spark of creation, gazed down at him with eyes exhausted by centuries of disappointment. "You are pure of heart, Billy Batson. But understand this, you will stand alone." Billy didn't realize what that meant. Not then, not truly. He accepted the power with the eagerness of a child, longing for purpose, for belonging, for anything that felt like home. And when lightning crashed through him for the first time, when the strength of Hercules and the wisdom of Solomon filled his bones, he felt unstoppable. The world finally had a champion. But power shapes destiny. And solitary power, absolute power, shapes it violently. For years, Billy fought alone. Bank robbers, collapsing bridges, runaway trains, all the things a hero could handle. But when the bigger threats came, Black Adam's resurrection, Sivana's 7 sins, interdimensional breaches, Billy struggled. Not because he lacked power, but because every battle carved something heavy into him. Every victory left him a little more alone. And the wizard, now a fading ghost within the rock of eternity, warned him again and again, one champion cannot bear the world forever. Still, Billy refused to ask for help. He remembered the wizard's words, "You will stand alone." He believed it, lived by it. And every time someone got close, Freddie, Mary, the kids at the foster home, he kept them out of the fight, out of the truth, out of danger. Or so he thought. The tipping point arrived one night when the sky tore open above Philadelphia. A rift, dark, pulsing, ancient, split the clouds, dripping shadows that twisted into monstrous shapes. Sivian screamed as the air warped with a sound like cracking bone. Billy transformed in a streak of golden lightning, soaring into the storm. But the moment he reached the rift, something reached back. A voice deep, hungry, echoed in his mind. Champion, alone, fragile, perfect. A hand of pure void erupted from the rift and slammed into him with cosmic force. Billy crashed through 2 skyscrapers before catching himself midair, dazed. The shadowy creature emerged, fully now towering, armored in darkness, its eyes twin pits of endless night. This wasn't Black Adam. This wasn't a sin. This wasn't even something the wizard had prepared him for. The creature raised its head, sniffing like a predator, tasting the air. "You'll carry the spark of the gods, a spark meant for 7. Yet you hoard it, bend it, strain beneath it. You are a vessel not built for the burden you bear." Billy clenched his fists, lightning crackling up his arms. "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be," the creature whispered, "for your power breaks. And when you break, your world falls." The shadow lunged. Billy countered with a thunderous strike, lightning exploding on impact. The city lit up like a dying star. But the creature barely staggered. It smiled, if the twisting of its jagged mouth could be called a smile. Too much power in one boy. Too easy to snap. Billy's breathing faltered, his vision blurred. For the first time since becoming Shazam, he felt overwhelmed. Not because he wasn't strong enough, but because the creature wasn't just attacking him. It was attacking the magic within him. The fight raged across the city, lightning against darkness, godhood against void, until the creature seized him by the throat and slammed him into the ground with seismic force. Billy gasped, struggling as the creature's claws sank into his chest, reaching not for flesh, but for the throne of power within him. He screamed as the creature began pulling. The strength of Hercules flickered. The stamina of Atlas trembled. The lightning of Zeus stuttered. Billy felt his entire being fracture under the strain, and in the fading echo of his pain, he heard a whisper, gentle, desperate, tired. "Billy, you should have shared the power. You were never meant to carry it alone." The wizard's voice, and Billy realized too late that the burden he'd guarded so fiercely was the very thing the enemy needed to destroy him. As the darkness dragged him deeper, draining his divine spark piece by piece, Billy made one final, desperate decision. He let himself fall, not out of surrender, but to buy the world a fleeting second of survival. And in that second, everything changed. The sky turned black, the rift widened, and the world braced for the rise of something that should never have been awakened. Billy didn't remember hitting the ground. He only remembered the sound of his heartbeat slowing, each chilled thump growing softer, weaker as the creature siphoned the divine spark from his core. He felt the world tilt, colors bleed, and the lightning that once roared within him dim to a flicker. For the first time in years, he felt like a kid again, not strong, not chosen, not divine, just Billy Batson, small, scared, and helpless beneath the weight of something ancient and merciless. When he awoke, he wasn't in Philadelphia anymore. He stood in a vast desert of ash and broken stone, beneath a sky the color of dying embers. Floating ruins drifted across the horizon like the remains of forgotten worlds. The air buzzed with whispers, thousands of them overlapping, pleading, fading, the rock of eternity. But not as he had ever seen it. This was the true form, the original shape, the corpse of a cosmic battlefield where gods had fought, fallen, and left their power behind. Billy staggered forward as the whispers grew louder, twisting into recognizable fragments. Champion, unbalanced, burdened, alone. A faint light flickered ahead. The wizard, frail and translucent, knelt with his staff planted in the ground, the glow beneath him straining to hold back encroaching darkness. "You are dying, Billy," the wizard said without turning. "The creature feeds on the imbalance within you." "Boo, what is it?" Billy whispered, his voice trembling. The wizard finally faced him, exhaustion carved into every line of his fading form. "It is the Void King, devourer of divine power, sworn enemy of the council. Long ago, we divided magic among multiple champions so that he could never claim it all. But when I chose you, I broke the ancient law." Billy shook his head. "You told me I had to stand alone." "I lied," the wizard confessed, the word cracking like brittle stone. "I was afraid. After the failures of champions before you, I swore the power would remain with one pure soul. But a child was never meant to hold the power of 7 gods alone." The truth hit Billy harder than any blow. "So this is my fault, because I kept it all." "No," the wizard said, stepping closer. "It is mine, but fault does not matter anymore. Only choice does." He held out his staff, and cracks of golden lightning crawled along the ground. "You must share your power, not as an act of charity, but as an act of survival. Without balance, the Void King will tear the spark from your soul and consume the world." Billy's heart pounded. Freddie, Mary, Darla, Pedro, Eugene, the family he had pushed away, thinking he was protecting them, to give them power now, after years of keeping them at arm's length, felt like admitting he had been wrong all along. He looked down at his trembling hands. "What if I can't do it? What if they get hurt because of me?" "Without them," the wizard said softly, "the world ends regardless." Thunder boomed above them as the sky cracked open. A massive tear spread across the heavens, revealing the Void King's silhouette towering over the mortal world. It was already breaking through. Billy felt its hunger pulling at him even here, in this place between realms. His lightning sputtered painfully beneath his skin. Billy swallowed hard. "How do I share the power?" The wizard's expression darkened. "By speaking the name and letting go." Letting go. The hardest thing he had ever been asked to do. The wizard placed a hand on Billy's shoulder, warm, steady, fatherly in a way Billy had never known. "Your greatest strength has never been your power. It has always been your heart. And hearts are not meant to stand alone." A tremor ripped across the rock of eternity. Shards of broken thrones collapsed into the abyss as the Void King's voice thundered from above. "Champion, I am coming for you." The wizard forced the last of his fading energy into Billy, illuminating the boy with golden fire. "Go." Now, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky, ripping Billy from the rock of eternity and hurling him back into the mortal world. He crashed through a billboard and tumbled onto a rain-soaked street. Sirens wailed, buildings crumbled, civilians fled in blind terror. The Void King towered at the center of the chaos, its presence warping reality around it like a dying star. Pieces of the city floated upward, trembling in its gravitational pull. Every breath Billy took felt heavy, strained, as if the creature's very existence was suffocating him. He staggered to his feet. The lightning in him was weak, barely enough to lift him off the ground. but he forced himself to fly anyway, streaking toward the foster home where the kids were surely hiding in fear. As he burst through the front door, Freddy nearly dropped the lamp he was holding like a baseball bat. "Billy? Dude, what happened to you?" Billy's voice cracked. "I need you. All of you." Mary stepped forward. "What's going on?" The room shook violently as the sky outside split open further. Billy looked at each of them, really looked at them for the first time since he had become Shazam. "I can't do this alone. I never could. And if I don't share this power now, everything ends." Freddy blinked. "You mean, like, we get powers too?" Billy nodded, tears burning his eyes. "If you say yes, only if you say yes." Mary didn't hesitate. "We're your family, Billy. Whatever happens, we're with you." One by one, the others nod, fearful but resolute. Billy took a deep breath. "Hold my hands." They formed a circle, gripping tightly. Billy closed his eyes as thunder roared overhead. "Say it, Billy," Freddy whispered. Billy exhaled, heart pounding. Shazam! Lightning exploded outward bright, golden, unstoppable. But something was wrong. The lightning split, then fractured, then screamed. Instead of flowing into them gracefully, the power tore itself from Billy like a live wire ripping free. The walls cracked. The floor split. The air imploded in a burst of blinding white. Freddy, Mari, Darla, Pedro and Eugene collapsed to their knees, gasping as raw divine energies surged through them. Billy fell backward, emptied, hollow, and burning from the inside. Outside, the Void King roared a sound of triumph, not fear, because now the power was divided again, just as it needed, just as it had planned. Billy had felt pain before, broken bones, bruised ribs, the aftershock of magic tearing through mortal tissue, but nothing compared to what ripped through him now. It wasn't just physical, it was deeper, a tearing of identity, a fracture of purpose. For the first time since speaking the word Shazam, he felt truly powerless. He lay on the splintered wooden floor of the foster home, staring at the ceiling as the roar of the Void King rattled the entire city. The others were still gasping, adjusting to the shock of godhood flooding their veins. Golden sparks danced around them like newborn stars, sun-controlled, wild, volatile. Mary was the first to regain her footing. "Billy, what happened? Why did it feel like the power was fighting us?" Billy forced himself to sit up, wincing. His voice came out hoarse. "Because it wasn't meant to be shared this late. The magic is angry. It's been stretched too far for too long. He doesn't trust anyone, not even me." Freddy lifted his hands, watching lightning crackle between his fingers. "Dude, this is insane. I feel like I can hear my bones humming." Darla giggled nervously, vibrating in place. "Everything is so loud and bright, and I think I can run through that wall, but I am scared I'll break the whole house." Before Billy could respond, a deafening shockwave shattered every window in the neighborhood. The Void King's presence pressed down like gravity, multiplied 1,000-fold. Billy staggered to the window. In the distance, the monster loomed over the skyline, tendrils of darkness weaving through the rift above it. Freddy stepped beside him. "We can fight now. All of us." Billy swallowed the fear rising in his throat. "You don't understand. The Void King wanted this. It needed the power divided. That's how it gets stronger." Mary frowned. "Then why divide the power at all?" Billy hesitated because the truth tasted bitter, because it couldn't carry it anymore. The admission hung in the air, heavy and painful. Mary stepped toward him, touching his shoulder. "Billy, no one expects you to save the world alone." But that was exactly what Billy had always believed. The wizard had drilled it into him with that single, damning promise: "You will stand alone." It had shaped him, molded his choices, locked him in a cage of responsibility too heavy for a 12-year-old boy to understand. He looked around at the family he'd tried so desperately to keep safe, and realized he had failed them by shutting them out, by assuming he had to shoulder everything himself. A charred piece of debris crashed through the roof, scattering dust and sparks. The Void King's voice bellowed through the streets. "Champions, come to me. Let me feast on your fractured light." Darla stepped behind Billy, trembling. He means us, right?" Billy nodded. "He can sense you now. All of you." Eugene exhaled shakily. "So what's the plan?" "The plan." Billy had never been good at plans. He usually relied on strength and instinct. But now, with so much chaos, so much pressure, his instincts were overwhelmed. His powers were barely embers. and the world was burning. Mary raised her chin, steady and determined. "Billy, we're here. Use us. Lead us." The word lead hit him like a spark. Not carry, not protect, lead. Maybe that was what he had been missing all along. Another quake shook the house. The Void King was moving, now towering, unstoppable, searching for the newly awakened champions. Billy stepped into the center of the room. Everyone transformed. "We move together. We don't split up. We don't rush in alone." The kids exchanged glances, afraid, but ready. They spoke in unison. Shazam! The explosion of lightning shook the block. 6 streaks of power shot through the roof, ready. In a storm of white-blue light, Mary blazing gold, Darla a blur of violet lightning, Eugene crackling with sharp chaotic current, Pedro glowing with deep emerald strength. Billy transformed too, but his lightning was dimmer, weaker, more fragile than ever before. He felt like a hollow echo of the champion he once was. Still, they stood as a family, 6 strong, 1 flickering. They soared toward the epicenter of destruction. The closer they flew, the heavier the air became. Cars floated around them, twisted in dark gravity. Buildings bent, groaning under the Void King's metaphysical pressure. The sky churned with streaks of collapsing starlight. Freddy pointed forward. "There! He's holy crap! He's gigantic!" The Void King towered hundreds of feet high, its silhouette shifting like a nightmare given form. Eyes of collapsing galaxies fixed on them as they approached. "You divide your spark," it rumbled. "You weaken yourselves. You make my feast complete." Without warning, it unleashed a tidal wave of shadow. The families scattered in the air, blasting apart from the force. Billy spiraled downward, barely catching himself before hitting the ground. Mary slammed into a floating chunk of asphalt, dazed. Darla ricocheted between levitating cars like a pinball. Pedro roared as he shoved through the dark wave, his strength barely holding. Eugene fired streams of crackling lightning that fizzled uselessly against the Void King's armored skin. Freddy, panting, circled back to Billy. "Dude, we're not strong enough to take this thing." Billy stared up at the monster. Lightning flickered weakly through his veins. He could feel the Void King trying to pull the last remnants of power from him, tugging at the fading spark, like a fisherman reeling in bait. Something dawned on him then. Something terrible. The Void King hadn't lost interest in him after the power split. It wanted him more than ever, and then Billy realized why. Freddy grabbed his arm. "Billy, what are you thinking? Tell me you've got a plan." Billy whispered, horrified. "It's not just feeding on the power. It's feeding on me, the first vessel, the original host, the source that holds all 7 gods together." Freddy's eyes widened. "You mean?" Billy nodded, heart sinking. "If the Void King devours me, it gets everything." A thunderous roar ripped through the sky as the Void King charged another blast. Billy clenched his fists. He had run from sharing the burden his whole life. Now he might have to sacrifice everything to protect the people he loved. Billy hovered in midair, lightning flickering weakly around him as the Void King's shadow spread across the ruined skyline. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to retreat with what little power he still had left, but he didn't move. Because for the first time since becoming Shazam, he finally understood what the wizard had failed to teach him. Being a champion wasn't about holding the power. It was about choosing what to do with it. The Void King raised one colossal arm. Darkness pooled in its palm, condensing into a swirling vortex of obliteration aimed squarely at the families scattered across the city, Freddy struggling to regain altitude, Mary shielding Darla, Eugene and Pedro firing blasts in desperation. Billy's heart slammed against his ribs. If that attack landed, everything would end. "Billy!" Freddy shouted from across the sky. "What do we do?" Billy breathed in. The lightning in his chest sputtered, weak but still alive. "Follow my lead," he yelled. "And trust me." He rocketed upward, forcing every remaining spark into his flight. The Void King's attention snapped toward him, instantly, its hunger palpable, its cosmic voice trembling with anticipation. "The first vessel returns," it crooned. "Your spark calls to me." Billy ignored the tremor in his limbs. "Yeah, then come get it." He let himself fall backwards straight into the heart of the Void King's swirling attack. "Billy!" Mary screamed. The vortex swallowed him whole. For a heartbeat, there was only darkness. Crushing, suffocating, endless darkness. A dimension of nothingness, where even the lightning inside him went silent. He felt the creature's power tearing into him, ripping at the core of who he was. Images flashed through his mind, his mother leaving him, nights on the streets, the first time he stepped into the foster home. The moment he gained the power, the faces of his new family, the hope he'd been given, the hope he thought he had to protect alone. And then, a spark. Small, warm, familiar. Billy. Freddy's voice. Not from the outside, from within the darkness. Billy turned. One by one, golden silhouettes flickered into existence. Mary, Darla, Pedro, Elgany, Freddy. Their forms glowed, brilliant against the void, their new powers resonating with his own. Billy realized what was happening. Sharing the power had connected them, not just physically, but spiritually. Their sparks were tethered, unified, and where darkness devoured one, 6 others pushed back. Mary stepped forward, golden electricity swirling around her hands. You don't carry this alone anymore. Freddy smirked, lightning dancing up his arms. Told you we had your back, dude. Darla zipped past, leaving a trail of violet light. Let's kick the scary space monster's butt. Pedro's deep voice thundered through the void. Together. Eugene cracked his knuckles, lightning coding across his skin like circuitry. Time to overload this thing. Billy felt the power inside him surge, not because he was using it, but because they were giving it back, not as a burden, as a gift. The Void King roared, the darkness around them trembling. No, you are divided. You are weak. Billy stepped to the front, lightning flooding from his chest, stronger than it had been in years. You're wrong. Divided power makes us stronger, because it connects us. The darkness shattered with a burst of golden light, and the family erupted from the vortex, 6 blazing streaks of godly energy ripping through the sky. They circled the Void King, weaving lightning into a tightening ring. The Void King swung wildly, but each champion struck in perfect synchronicity. Mary's wisdom guiding their timing, Darla's speed creating openings, Freddy's power landing crushing blows, Pedro anchoring their formation, Eugene directing arcs of lightning that severed the Void King's tendrils. Billy rose above them, all glowing fierce, transformed not by the power he carried, but by the family that lifted him. The Void King staggered, its cosmic armor cracking. Billy shouted, "Everyone focus, everything you've got." They joined hands midair, forming a circle of 6, lightning threading between them like veins of molten gold. Billy hovered at the center, the last ember inside him igniting with their shared strength. He spoke the word not as a command, but as a promise. Shazam! The sky exploded. A pillar of divine lightning, amplified 6-fold, tore downward like a judgment from the gods themselves. It pierced the Void King's chest, ripping through the creature's core. The monster's roar warped into a scream as its body fractured into shards of collapsing starlight. The rift above them imploded. Shadow peeled away like burning cloth. Reality snapped back into place with a thunderous shockwave. The Void King shattered his form, dissolving into dust, then fading into oblivion. Silence fell across the battlefield. The champions descended slowly, landing in the street where the first domino of destruction had fallen. Billy collapsed to his knees, exhausted, but alive. The others gathered around him, their powers dimming, their breaths heavy. Mary placed a hand on his shoulder. "You saved us." Billy shook his head, voice cracking. "No, we saved us." Freddy grinned through the exhaustion. "So, does this mean we're like official heroes now?" Billy laughed weakly. "Yeah, you are." Then he looked up at the sky, clear now, peaceful, and whispered, "Thank you for sharing the burden." The wizard's fading voice echoed gently in his mind. Not burden, Billy Batson. Legacy. In the days that followed, the world slowly rebuilt what had been broken. But something far more important had been rebuilt within Billy himself. He no longer walked the path of a champion as a lone figure standing against the storm. He walked it hand in hand with a family who carried the lightning just as fiercely as he did. The wizard had been wrong in the warning he gave a frightened boy years ago. Power wasn't meant to be held alone. Strength didn't come from being the sole protector. It came from trust, unity, and faith in the people who stood with him. And so Billy Batson, once a kid told he would stand alone, became something greater. A brother, a leader, a true champion. Not the one the gods had chosen, but the one he chose to become. The one true champion.